Getting ready for a gig? We're talking about levels in this video segment. Alright, so now you guys are at the point where you need to get levels set across all your patches in a bank, and it can be somewhat of a daunting task. Now, the method to check all this is going to be somewhat the same, but the template as far as the amps need to be set at this parameter, the master volume needs to be set at this parameter, is always going to change, and that's due to your guitar chain setup, the amp, all that stuff is going to always alter those parameter changes. But the way to check this stuff is going to be the same. Now, it doesn't matter if you start on A to B, B to C. What I like to do is I pick within a set bank the most driven song, and then that is, depending if I want it any higher or if I want to bring the volume down, that's going to set the baseline for the entire bank. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to B, because that was the driving song for me. And what I like to do is when I go to start setting all these, okay, I'm going to go to my levels section of the screen. The overall volume and your guitar level needs to be set, and then once you set them at a certain parameter, don't touch them again. And this includes while you're changing banks, okay? The minute you set those, all right, that becomes where everything needs to be raised up to. If you adjust them while you're doing level checks, you're kind of defeating the whole purpose, okay? The idea behind this is once you have level-wise all the patches on the same, if when you're performing or at sound check and you need to kind of raise your volume up, you just tweak your global parameter and everything raises up. So a couple things when you're going through amps, okay? If you know the kind of tone of an amp, if one is clean and you know you need to kind of push it more, you can usually get away, instead of raising the volume of the amp, raising the gain if it's a clean amp and driving the volume up that way. If it's a distortion type of amp head or combo amp, you might not be able to do that and you have to push the volume. This is where that whole template play comes into effect, because you're going to have to know and experiment with doing that. The other things you want to kind of play into is thinking in your head, if you're going to want to play tap foot and turn on effects real quick, or if you want to adjust drives with your additional foot pedals as far as tweaking parameters. Now, word of caution, if you have pedals turned on and you have them tweaked to where the drive is back, okay, when you switch patches, if you don't have it saved to where the drive is at the max level, okay, your volume's going to drop. No matter what you do, you're going to keep dropping. So you're going to have to keep an eye on that. Now, when you're double checking all these patches, you're going to want to make sure that you're testing them at the loudest point that this patch is going to go. So distortion, compressor, volume is full on, all that stuff. Okay, you want to double check against that whole level setting. Now, in this particular patch, I was using a P75 normal, which is actually a really fun amp. Really good if you were trying to get like Stevie Ray tones, and you can really tweak the EQ and on the amp and in the EQ settings. So for me, I didn't want to drive the amp too hard, because not only did I have an HD screamer on, but I was using the compressor and I was pushing the gain on it. So after experimenting around, I rather push the volume and not push the drive. So once I set that whole patch, I just decided I'm going to leave the HD on. And once the HD is turned on and I'm in the song, I'll control the peak of the drive with my foot pedal. And that's how I decided. So from that loudest patch, I went to the next, the least loudest patch, okay? So I went to C patch. I'm switching over. Okay, so on this amp, different amp, so didn't stay the same. On this type of line 6 mood, it was in the clean section. Definitely had to drive not only the drive section of the amp, but also the level. All right. Even with that, that was probably the loudest I wanted to go, even when I was trying to do very sensitive pick and even finger picking on my guitar. I was still pretty much right there as far as the clean level. Now, when I even was messing with the idea of what if I wanted to leave the tube screamer on, I was kind of pushing past that point. So I had to keep track of two things on this certain effect. One, the output level. So I pushed the drive to as high as I wanted to go and noticed that I had to pull the output back. And then it was like a matter of 10-15 minutes of playing with the drive and the output to get them somewhat balanced out. So if I pushed over, I wasn't exceeding on the amp. When I pulled back, I was still noticeable. I did realize that when I saved the amp, I had to turn that specific stomp pedal off, because when I switched over, my volume would be decreased because that pedal is holding my volume back. So with that said, saved it. I sampled between B and C, got a good feel, moved on. Went to the next loudest patch, and I believe this one is a separate amp, and it is. So 92 brick clean, and on this particular amp, the volume and the drive was almost dead on with each other. I just had to push the volume a little more, and using a full-out distortion on this type of amp, not only was more muddier, but I was overdriving every time I was trying to balance the level. So what I decided to do was compromise. I went with a boost and an EQ pedal, pulled back on my mid frequency so I wasn't writing too high, but I left the gain on, okay? And then I also added a Screamer HD, and I actually saved that patch to turn on and lowered the Screamer, and while I was playing, I would actually push the gain on, or the drive, and that kind of worked out with the dynamics of the band. So when they kind of rose up, I met them evenly. That was something I realized through rehearsals. I noticed that even when I set my peak on, that I still dynamically was not hitting to where they were. And so after I did rehearsals, I kind of made notes, and at home I adjusted that myself. So keep check that even when you save this stuff at your rehearsal spots or studios, when you go to rehearsals, make notes of like, hey, dynamically I need to raise at this point, and kind of make adjustments at next rehearsals or sound check. Specifically check that patch and make sure dynamically you guys are on the same path. Moving on, went to the last patch in this bank, and I wound up using the same P45, or sorry, P75, and I just modified the EQ settings. And in this particular one, I did actually wind up liking driving the master volume over the actual volume control and leaving off the tube screamer. And so what I found out is, again, dynamically in the song, we started out low, and what I had to work with was coming off of a somewhat high level, going into a lower song. And so what I compromised was, in the part of the song where we finish, we were close to 3/4 of the power I had on my first patch. So in a sense, I had to work backwards. I played the song at the lowest volume, found out dynamically where I needed to be at, kind of paused everything, messed with the output and the drive again, and found a happy medium, and decided that I'm going to save this patch with the distortion off. At a point in the song, I'm going to turn it on, and I'll be able to turn on the effect without my volume going stupid loud. While I'm playing and while the effect is on, I'm going to control the gain, all right, the drive of the pedal, with my Mission Engineering pedal, excuse me. And that's how I would kind of navigate between those two. So once I kind of set that one, again, I played the whole set by myself again with background checks. went through A to B to C to D, and wherever order I had the songs in, and everything kind of evened out. Like I said, it's just going to be troubleshooting, knowing what each effect is doing in your guitar chain. If you know you're turning it on, will it drop your volume? Will it push your volume? If it does, can you control the output? You might have to compromise. Maybe you need to turn it off and turn it on while you're in the song so you can adjust the levels yourself. Whatever it may be, let me tell you that I have extremely enjoyed using the remote while I'm doing this and being able to play and kind of move my finger over, turn it up real quick, and continue playing. So that made it a huge benefit of why I kind of went with the FireHawk. But that is how I set my volumes. It's not an exact science, but it's a method. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them, send me a private message if you want. I would love to hear from you guys. If you've learned anything, please let me know. If I didn't explain something more, again, let me know. I'll kind of reiterate points I missed out on. Other than that, this is Tone Friday's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next Friday, I'll see you guys later.